Welcome to the first episode of Sports Fanatics United. I'm your host, Eric Good, and today I have my guest, Max Donald Briggs. Max, nice to have you.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking some sports.
Sounds good. Well, let's not mess around. Let's just get right to it. Um, I know you heard this week on about Josh Rosen perhaps being traded by the Arizona Cardinals because they now have interest in Kyler Murray. If you were the Cardinals, what would be your plan going forward?
Honestly, if I was the Cardinals, this is all a smokescreen. I would roll with Rosen. I think he is going to be a good quarterback, and I think he might fit the scheme for Arizona.
Right.
So I know Cliff kind of likes these athletic kind of, improvisational quarterbacks, i.e. like Patrick Mahomes and stuff like that, and that's what Kyler Murray is. But I don't see Kyler Murray as an NFL starting quarterback. He's kind of a gimmicky quarterback. He's only 5'10".
If that.
Yeah, if that. I mean, he's a small body, and I know there's guys like Russell Wilson out there. I know there's guys like Doug Flutie that was successful in this league, but I don't see Kyler Murray being that. And I think what they're trying to do is gauge interest in the first overall pick, because I'm sure there's another team out there that really wants Kyler Murray, and if everybody, I think what they're trying to do is get more in return for the number one overall, because they do have their quarterback, and it's not necessary for them to draft Kyler Murray. I think it could be a ploy to try to get Oakland to trade up and unload a couple of those first round picks that they have, because Derek Carr is not the answer, and I know John Gruden is insane. So he would do something like trade their first round pick and one of the picks that they either got in the Mac trade or the Cooper trade, and trade up to number one and draft Kyler Murray, because that's exactly like something.
It's a very Raider thing to do.
Yeah, I mean that's got Al Davis and John Gruden written all over it. It's just the type of move that they would make, so I wouldn't put it past them. And I think that's what Arizona's trying to do is really just bait the ever living hell out of Oakland and try to get them to trade up and take that pick away from them and get more in return, because there's plenty of Arizona doesn't need a quarterback. What they need is weapons for Rosen, because Larry Fitzgerald's getting old.
Yeah.
I mean, how many more years does he honestly have left? I mean, maybe one.
I would say this would be the last one.
Yeah, so he's got 1 year. And outside of that, who else do they got? Let's. They have Christian Kirk, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, so they have Christian Kirk, but you're going to need another wide receiver. David Johnson's no spring chicken anymore.
Right.
I mean, he's still young, but he's had he's had the injury. The more injuries that our running backs compile, the worse off they are.
John Brown's now a Raven as of last year.
Yeah, Brown's gone. Rosen needs weapons. He needs a tight end. He needs another wide receiver to pair well with Kirk. He probably needs an O-lineman or two to get that protection going. And then they need defensive players, because their defense wasn't that great either. I mean, pretty much all they really have to speak about is Patrick Peterson, and they're lucky to even have him still. And outside of that, who is it? Deion Buchanan? Is he with them?
He's still with them.
He's with them. So essentially, what they need to do is build through the draft, and the way to do that is to trade that number one pick and bring in a haul and make everybody believe that they're going after Kyler Murray, and then just say who can offer us the most for the number one overall pick, because we're going to stick with Rosen. And I think that trade will happen right before the draft. It won't be like today or tomorrow we'll hear of a huge trade where Rosen gets traded away, or will they trade away the number one pick for a plethora of picks? What's going to happen is right before draft time, they're going to trade away that number one pick, and then they're going to move back in the draft and start drafting the areas of need for this team. And then they're going to build that way.
And see,
that's the right way to do it. That's what I see happening.
and to me, a point that you actually brought up, to like you said, Arizona, I think one of their biggest needs actually is going to be a tight end, like you said, because to me, when you're bringing in these young quarterbacks, what's the biggest thing that you should put around them? A security blanket.
Yep.
I mean,
tight end right over the middle.
Look how it worked for, Tom Brady. These last, ever since he's had Gronkowski, and even before then, when he's had guys like Benjamin Watson, who's another New England tight end that he's had.
Aaron Hernandez.
Yep. And I'm not going to mention his name because if I can't get it correct, I'm not. But and then Peyton Manning, he's had Dallas Clark, he's had Tony Romo, he's had Jason Witten, Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates. To me, for these young quarterbacks, you need to get them a good tight end because just to get them comfortable in the league, because it seems like the good ones, they have that security blanket. Just my opinion.
Well, yeah. Well, look at Baker Mayfield. He's got David Njoku.
Exactly. Good example.
Patrick Mahomes has Travis Kelce.
Another great example.
You get these young guys with a tight end, a big body guy. That's what they need. They need a big target, somebody that can fight for the extra yards, have field awareness, kind of read what the quarterback's doing, and be in a position to actually catch a football when it may not be a designed play to them, but they're always ready. That's what they need. That's why you see success from some of these quarterbacks, some of these young guys, is they've had that tight end or that security blanket in their offense to bail them out and be ready for the ball whenever, wherever, and however it gets to them. And that is what's going to make Rosen successful. So if they do pull the stupid move, in my opinion, is to trade away Rosen, waste a first-round pick on Kyler Murray. If Rosen gets to a team that has a decent tight end and a decent wide receiver core and maybe a decent run game, he is going to be an immensely successful quarterback. He has the tools. He has the ability. I think what it comes down to is the makeup of the team around him. I'm not going to say he's going to be the next Tom Brady. I'm not going to say he's going to be the next Peyton Manning or even like a Ben Roethlisberger. But he's going to be a quarterback somewhat like an Eli Manning.
And see, funny that you mentioned Eli because that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, if the Cardinals do actually trade Rosen, keep your eye on a team like the Giants.
Yeah, exactly. I could see that.
Yeah, where Eli's on the way out the door, you bring Rosen in, let him sit behind Eli at least for the first half of the season, and depending on if the Giants actually turn things around and are a successful team in 2019, or if they have another 2018 like season in 2019, I wouldn't be shocked to see Rosen come in and towards the end of the year, the Giants really get rolling, like teams that usually will be, at least in the talk of being good the following season, they always get rolling at the end, everybody's next season's bandwagon, basically. And because, like you said, the Giants, they have a decent tight end in Ingram. They have a decent wide receiver core headlined by Odell Beckham. And they have Saquon Barkley. And they're about only a few pieces really away on defense. It's just that's why the Giants being so bad always baffles me. It's like this team is actually only a couple of pieces away from being really good,
Yeah, the Giants are kind of an enigma of sorts when it comes to their actual team makeup. Like, they've got all the talent in the world. I think the biggest piece that they're missing is a quarterback. Eli Manning served them well, got them 2 Super Bowls, Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but the guy is way past his prime, and
Mm-hmm.
he can't really adjust to the speed of the game that it is right now. So if you bring in a young guy, I see a huge shot in the arm for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say this though. Yes, the perfect fit for Rosen is New York. If that trade were to happen, where Rosen goes to New York and Kyler Murray is drafted number 1 overall by the Cardinals, here's what's going to happen. Cliff Kingsbury has 2 years in the league, at most,
Mm-hmm.
because Murray is not going to succeed. He's not going to be the next Russell Wilson. He's not going to be the next Doug Flutie. He's not going to be anybody. He's going to be a guy that should have stayed with baseball, but yet he went for the easy money and went to football and failed. And that is going to be the legacy of Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach in the NFL. So you can mark the tape right now. I'm calling it. If they draft Kyler Murray and trade away Josh Rosen, Kingsbury has 2 years in the league, and then he's back into college, or he's back being an assistant, or back being an offensive coordinator for some team. And he's going to be on a bottom feeder team. He could really mess up the Cardinals organization for many years to come if they pull the trigger on a Josh Rosen trade and draft Kyler Murray.
I hope they make the smart decision and actually stick with Rosen because, like you said, it'd be a wasted. It'd actually be 2 wasted first round picks. The Rosen
Yeah,
first round from last year and the Murray one from this year. But if there's another if there's another team that will pull a move like this, Arizona's going to Arizona.
yeah. Well, good for them. Good for them. Sure, just be the laughing stock. Turn into it would be like turning into the Jets or the Browns or the Raiders.
Somebody's got to take this. Somebody has to take the spot from the Browns. It seems like they're turning things around. So why not Arizona?
Yeah, yeah. You go ahead.
All right, Max. I know you've heard about AB. How reports have gotten out that he's nixed the trade to Buffalo, and now they're saying there's 3 teams in the running, and there's supposed to be a big announcement in the next 24 hours or so about where he will be in the future. And on that note, also, I mean, there's still Le'Veon Bell, who's going to be a free agent now that the Steelers aren't going to franchise him. They're not going to transition tag him. Um, Going forward for those 2 players, what do you see?
So, okay, here's what I see for the AV scenario. He's going to go to Oakland. Huge mistake, but he's going to go to Oakland. My dark horse was actually Kansas City because there's been a lot of smoke around AB
Mm-hmm.
coming to Kansas City, but I don't think Pittsburgh's dumb enough to trade them to a high caliber team.
Right.
They're gonna trade him to a bottom feeder team. That's essentially what they're gonna do, so that they throw him in the pit of misery, so to speak. Because apparently he's pissed off everybody in Pittsburgh. From all accounts, he just sounds like the epitome of a diva wide receiver,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way in the NFL because it's more about a team instead of an individual person.
Mm-hmm.
So that attitude really doesn't fly with most teams. So he's going to go to a team that allows a diva wide receiver or diva personality, and he's going to go to Oakland, which is okay. Go there. I'd love to face him 2 times a year. I'd love to see the anger and the emotions come out of him after he gets his ass kicked twice a year by the Chiefs, and probably twice a year by the LA Chargers. I said it right that time. I wanted to say San Diego so bad, but and honestly, Denver will probably beat the living daylights out of them too, which is hard for me to say because I think they are honestly the worst run franchise in the league right now. because of John Elway. Simply because of his hubris, and he thinks he's better than everyone else, but in reality, he hasn't done anything other than bring in Peyton Manning to the franchise, and then squeeze every last drop out of him, and then have him retire. So I see AB going to the Raiders, and then honestly, you probably haven't heard it yet, but Bell's probably coming to the Kansas City Chiefs.
That wouldn't shock me, actually.
It wouldn't shock you, but Bell's actually been hanging out with Chris Jones quite a bit this offseason, and they've been posting some Instagram videos and stuff like that, and Bell is pretty pumped about trying to come to Kansas City. He's even said it. There was a video posted by Chris Jones the other day where Chris Jones is looking at the camera. It's a front-facing camera. He switches it around. He says, "Oh, look who we got here," and it's Le'Veon. And Le'Veon pops up and he's like, wouldn't it be awesome? Kansas City Super Bowl, yeah. And I think he's going to come to Kansas City and he'll take less money than what he's expecting so that he can get a Super Bowl and be on an actual good offense, a more cohesive offense.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Chiefs get Bell, voting for the Super Bowl. I mean, they have too many weapons.
I mean,
honestly, there's no stopping them if they get Bell.
Look how close they were last season when they lost Hunt still. And they were an overtime away from playing L.A., and I got that right. I wanted to say St. Louis, L.A. in the Super Bowl. But, I mean...
Well, yeah. Kansas City's offense is just so dominant that you can't stop them. I mean, nobody stopped them. I mean, I don't think they scored less than 27 points all year last year. But their only hindrance is their defense. Their defense was 31st in the league last year. That's what killed them. They couldn't stop Tom Brady in overtime to get the ball back to put it in Patrick Mahomes' hands to have us win it. So ultimately, there's two ideas here in Kansas City. They're either going to go after more offense to make us the most unstoppable offense of all time, and add Bell and add other wide receivers. There's even been talk about Brown coming to Kansas City. So imagine a team like that. It's like a daily fantasy league, essentially, on offense. That's what they're going after, and with a coach like Andy Reid, throw Bell into the mix. Imagine I'm not trying to, sit here with rose-colored glasses right now, but you insert Bell into this lineup and into this offense, and then draft maybe another wide receiver. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Bell runs for 1,500 yards and Patrick Mahomes throws for like 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. Because literally, who are you going to stop? I mean, pick your poison.
Pretty much.
Or stop Bell, or stop Kelsey, or even stop Watkins. I mean, there's literally no stop. You take away one, and you leave everybody else one-on-one. It would just be fucking ridiculous. Like, it would just be insane. The only other team that I could see Bell going to is possibly the Jets. There's always been talk about him going to the Jets. The Jets seem like a good fit for him. They need a good running back. Like, they've had okay running backs, but they've never had a back like Bell. And I could see them bringing him in to be kind of a safety blanket for Darnold, ultimately.
See, I've been on that Bell to the Jets train since basically last year when he said that if he's franchised, he's going to sit out. And Pittsburgh's like, oh, well, we'll call your bluff. And they come to find out that the man was telling the truth because, as you saw, he sat out this year. And ever since then, I've been on the Bell to the Jets train. Now, for AB, I was thinking Miami, because to go along with what you said about a bottom feeder possibly getting him, I was thinking Miami, but after the video that came out, what was it, yesterday, about him in the
Yeah,
Raider colors, and
yeah.
his buddy was like, you got Raider colors on now, and I mean, it's almost like the signs are just there. And AB seems like that type of guy that would show that where he's going before he goes there. That's just my opinion, though.
No, I'm with you. I could definitely see Miami. I could see them, and I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Arizona might try to throw their hat in the ring on this, or even San Francisco. San Francisco is kind of that intriguing
Mm-hmm.
team as well, simply because I think John Lynch is just that off the wall that he might try to make something like that work. Those are about the only teams that I really see it as a viable possibility. I just know Pittsburgh's not going to trade it to a contender. Trade him to a contender.
And
They're
they
not stupid.
and they ain't trading him to Baltimore. Unlike I've seen some people online like, yeah, we can get AB from Pittsburgh to Baltimore. Yeah, they're not trading him to Baltimore.
No, and there's no way in the hell AB would want to play with Lamar Jackson.
Right.
There's no way in hell. Like, for all the that he's giving Big Ben right now, imagine how bad it would be in Baltimore. Like, it would be an absolute show. Like, right off the bat. I think he might even try to sit out a year and see what happens, because there's no way in hell Lamar Jackson's getting the ball to AB consistently.
I tell you, when you go on the Facebook and you see some of these wild theories, because I've also seen ones where, yeah, we can get him in Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland's on the rise, in my opinion, but no, Pittsburgh's not stupid enough to face him twice a year on a team that could give them problems in the very near future. And despite where one of our future co-hosts on this show says he's not going to Cincinnati either.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just get that out the way right now. He's not going to Cincinnati. I mean, who wants to
Yeah.
go to Cincinnati?
I don't think anybody wants to go to Cincinnati. They have no quarterback. They have really no offense. I mean, they've got Mixon and they've got Green, but outside of that, really nothing. Ivert's not really somebody that you can say is a weapon. And then their defense is, yeah, there's nothing really good to say about their defense either. So there's no way in hell they're going there.
I tell you, I love the off season in sports though, because it's when you get the most fan opinions about this guy can go here, this guy can go there. Can't you just imagine him going here? And a lot of them are actually pretty good in that they're within the realm of possibility. But I mean, to be a division rival and expect that, you almost have to give up a king's ransom for a division rival to trade a star player to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think a lot of people put that into perspective. Um, there's a lot of, a division rival is a huge thing in football.
Hmm.
Like, there's a lot of stock taken into your division games, and you have to face each team in your division twice. If you start trading away your players to a division rival, that instantly says that you're not going to be competing.
And you're blocking your easiest route to the playoffs. You're making your road to the playoffs tougher because everybody knows if you win your division, you're guaranteed to go to the playoffs. That is the simplest way to get to the playoffs. So why would you handicap yourself like that? You know?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Kansas City right now, uh, they're actually getting interest for D Ford. They franchise tagged him, and now they're trying to trade him, which is the right thing to do because he is not that good of a pass rusher. Even though everybody thinks he's a top tier guy, a top end pass rusher,
Hmm.
he isn't. He is not. Guy has a body made of glass, and they're garnering interest from a lot of different teams, and there's talk that he might go to, a team like Cleveland or a team like, even San Francisco. Just random teams, but you never hear it go to a division rival.
Right.
And that's what smart teams do. They never send them to division rivals. There'll be those once in a while trades where you'll see a division rival trade for a bottom of the barrel guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it.
Yeah.
Any smart team won't trade for.
I know you remember.
Trade too.
I know you remember years ago when Favre wanted out of since Green Bay wasn't going to start him and Rodgers was going to be the starter, he wanted out, and everybody just assumed for sure that Favre was going to Minnesota and Green Bay was going to be willing to sit back. And I'm thinking, like, are y'all serious? Green Bay is not going to send Favre to Minnesota. If they're smart, which they did, they made the smart move, in my opinion. They're going to send him as far away from getting in their way to get into the playoff as possible. And that's what they did when they sent him to the Jets. I mean, yeah, he had all the media on him in New York, away from Green Bay now, which allowed Rodgers just to basically develop into the Rodgers that we knew at one time. My thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, ask me another day about that. But, I mean, it's just one of those fan things that just amuses me every offseason when I see it.
Yeah. So, real quick on Aaron Rodgers, I'm partially a Green Bay Packers fan, right? So, I love Aaron Rodgers. You want to hear my take on Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes?
Sure.
So, Aaron Rodgers is supposedly God's gift to quarterbacks as far as talent. Well, Patrick Mahomes is Aaron Rodgers if Aaron Rodgers wasn't so dumb and injured himself so much. That's essentially what we're going to get with Patrick Mahomes. We're going to get what we should have got with Aaron Rodgers. We should have got the greatest quarterback of all time with Aaron Rodgers, but we didn't. And now we're going to get that chance with Patrick Mahomes. That's my take on that. Just so it's known.
And another future co-host of this podcast would tell you also how I've been big on Aaron Rodgers over these years. I just feel like he's left a lot to be desired from what the teams around him could be. Yeah, Green Bay has had crappy defenses, but I mean, to a certain point.
That's no extent. That's no excuse. I mean, seriously, look at Kansas City. They had the 31st ranked defense, and they went to the AFC Championship game and took it to overtime and almost won against the greatest quarterback of all time. We can't bring that their defense sucks into the conversation because we're bucking that trend if you're a good enough quarterback. I think the problem with Aaron Rodgers is, one, he's a diva. I think he thinks his shit don't stink, which is okay. You want that in a quarterback to a certain extent, but it's too far in his own mind. And then two, he's a head case. Look at all the media attention that he brings that is a negative impact, not only to himself, but to his team. The issues with his family, the dealings with his girlfriends, and just the overall dysfunction of that team. A lot of that relies solely on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders. If you take that away from the equation, I think you get a more cohesive bunch, and they actually perform to a certain standard, not be what they are. I think you can't. It's so disheartening to see that from such a good quarterback, but I think the talk of him being a great quarterback needs to subside because he has literally tarnished his own reputation by opening his mouth and being in the public eye and saying stupid shit and being just an average quarterback on the field. Sure, we'll get those miraculous throws that he makes every now and again, but outside of that, he's essentially Alex Smith. I mean, that's honestly what he is. He's Alex Smith at this point with a better arm and makes some miraculous throws, but outside of that, he's on the same caliber as Alex Smith.
All right, Max. Going forward, I mean, let's move forward now to Major League Baseball. And finally, Machado and Harper have found new homes. Machado's out there in San Diego, 10-year, $300 million deal. Harper has found his way to Philadelphia, even though everybody said he wasn't going there and didn't want to go there. But he's there for 13 years and $335 million, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this MLB offseason and these two deals specifically?
Personally, I think these two deals are dumb. Sure, yeah, you got the two best players out there, but now you're financially saddled with the burden of players past a certain age. They're just going to be a liability on the field. The way that the MLB is moving, these deals are ancient history. They shouldn't be making them anymore. Like we talked earlier about how a lot of these guys that are decent players or top tier players, maybe not like 1A, they might be like 1B, 1C type players, aren't garnering these contracts. And you can almost supplement a Machado or Harper production with a type 1A, type 1 or type 1B, type 1C player for a minuscule price. And what they're doing is they're hampering their franchises for quite some time by locking themselves in with these deals.
By paying for a name.
Yeah, paying for a name. I mean, we've got to realize that now these guys are linked to these teams for essentially the remainder of their career. Sure, they might get like a veteran minimum or a small contract after these deals are up. Well, at least Machado will. Harper, not so much.
Only way Harper finds his way out is if he gets traded out.
Yeah, and I think he has some pretty strong no-trade clauses in there. So, essentially, these guys are linked to these teams for the remainders of their career. And this is going to be a make or break on their legacy, so to speak. So neither one has won the World Series. Neither one has really proven anything other than their individual statistics. What they need to do is be leaders. They need to be the spokespersons for these certain organizations. And I don't think you're getting that with either one of them. I mean, Harper seems kind of like, in a way, an arrogant prick. And Machado really doesn't talk that much. I mean, sure, yeah, he might talk a little bit, but being in the Midwest, you don't hear much from him. You don't just hear random snippets from him. So you're not getting a whole hell of a lot other than individual statistics with these guys. It's not like they make the team better with their play. Sure, individually, yes, but they don't apply a certain leadership quality to these teams. Because, hell, the Dodgers didn't really do shit after they added Machado through trade. It's not like they're gonna initially flip a switch if they pay him all this fucking money and then expect something from him. No, they're going to give good statistics, and it's only going to be about individual statistics. It's not going to be about the team.
Right, because last year for the Dodgers, basically, you got the same result as you got the year before. You lost in the World Series.
Yeah, exactly. So
Ad Machado did absolutely nothing for you.
Yeah, so you can't really say that adding a player of their caliber is really going to put them over the edge. What it's going to do is put butts in the seats, bring in revenue, but outside of that, it's not going to really help the team all it's really going to do is put another solid bat in the lineup and another solid defensive player out there that you could have spent a fraction of the price on by supplanting it with other names that are just as qualified as these guys. It's not like these guys are out there hitting 400 and 60 home runs a year.
Right.
It's not like putting one of those guys in the lineup. It's what you're adding is a consistency. That's all you're adding.
Right.
You're adding a consistent player. So to say that they're worth that much money, I think it would be asinine to think that that is true, because that's not the way that the majors is headed down. I mean, they're headed down to more economical contracts and focusing on what they can bring as a whole to the team, not just their individual statistics. Every team needs a leader. Every team needs spokespersons. Every team needs somebody that's going to get up there, be consistent, and help bring along the next generation of players. That's what's worth it, in my opinion, as far as money. But I don't see that coming from either Machado or Harper, to be honest.
The way I look now, if you break it down, just all right, the deal Machado got for himself and the deal Harper got for himself, as you know, we've talked earlier this week. I believe Machado, personally, is the bigger winner from the two deals, just because Machado, one, has an opt-out 5 years into his contract, and also is just, even though he's paying that state tax in California on his deal, he still is going to be making more money annually than Harper will in less years. So to me, it's just like with the parameters of the deal, Machado's deal is just the better of the two. It's like, I mean, okay, Bryce, you wanted to be the highest paid player, but now you basically have it's make or break in Philadelphia. And as of right now, I mean, we can't just grade it off of 1 year, of course, but as of right now, to make that immediate impact to me, like Philadelphia wants to make on this upcoming season, to me, they're still not the division favorite. I mean, you'll find out on our NL East preview that we have that I still think the Atlanta Braves are the class of the NL East, and don't be shocked this year if they push the envelope to be the class of the entire National League. That's just how I feel about not only the Phillies, but just the deal with Harper and all of that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I was doing some research for that NL East portion that we talked about earlier, and really, I mean, I'm looking at what I wrote down, and the key additions for the Phillies were they signed Harper, they re-signed Aaron Nola, and then they traded for JT Realmuto. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Whatever it is, the real Muto. And then they got David Robinson, who's kind of old. And you being a Yankees fan, you know all about him. And then Andrew McCutchen, who is again another older player. I mean, and they got Gene Segura and Juan Niasco, or Nikiaso, or however you pronounce his name. These names are okay if it was 5 years ago. But now, I mean, it's just, you're adding a bunch of veteran players that you're hoping to make a push for a World Series, but honestly, I don't think the cohesion's there. You look at the Braves, pretty much they have every piece that they need.
And their farm system, man.
Exactly.
Whew.
I mean, I think the only thing that they really added this offseason was Josh Donaldson. I think I kind of stopped my research after a few, and I mean, if that's all they added, they're still a solid damn team.
Yes.
I mean, their only concern is the need for Donaldson to assimilate to the team, because it is such a young group with Acuna and Alves and who else.
And I think that Donaldson signing is basically at the end of this season. that Donaldson signing is going to be the signing of the offseason that nobody really paid attention to. But once you see how the season plays out, I feel like that is the deal of the offseason made by the Braves.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I mean, he is a power bat. I mean, he is older, but I mean, even older guys tend to hit well into their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Kendrick Morales and guys like that. I mean, they're gonna produce. It's just at what extent did you pay for them, and how long do you have them on your team? And I don't think this Donaldson deal is that bad of a deal. It's not like they're hindering themselves for many years to come.
Right.
Really, what they're trying to do is add a veteran presence into their young team to
Mm-hmm.
not only give it more veteran leadership for Freeman. You got Donaldson now, and then you got a really young pitching staff. I mean, a really, really young pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of potential for them to be dominant for many years to come. It's just a matter of whether or not they can keep it together and really just kind of work together as a team and grow. I see them kind of like the 2014, about the 2014 Royals this year. They added a veteran name, and they're young, they're fast, they're energetic, and there's a ton of upside. And they could really, shock everybody and go to the World Series this year and take it to a Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it will be their year to win it all, but they're gonna bring it damn close to the wire and shock a lot of people. They're a really fun and exciting team to watch this year.
Well, let's not give away too much of that right now on this episode, but let's roll back to Machado. I mean, I feel like that signing from San Diego is basically saying, okay, we have a loaded farm team too. Now let's bring in another guy that can help us bring in more talent. Because let's just show that we're serious now in San Diego. And I feel like that's what that signing is saying with Machado. With Harper, though, into Philly, I'm going to be honest. I don't know Philadelphia has been saying, that this offseason is going to be the offseason that they've been waiting for all these years to make that splash signing, and they accomplished it, but, at what cost? I know everybody knows that now they're trying to, their next target is going to be Mike Trout in 2 years. But, to me, and we've talked about this in the past also, you and I, that to me, Trout, it's going to be damn hard to beat the Yankees if he makes it to the open market.
Yeah, I can see that, but I don't see Mike Trout being the personality for the Yankees. I don't think he fits that mold. Trout, to me, is a guy that's going to go to a small market team. I honestly think that because LA's too big for him. New York's too big for him. Boston's even too big for him.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to a small market team, doesn't put all the attention on himself, and becomes more of a team player.
Mm-hmm.
And then really just takes that team to the next level. That's the way I see him, because he is a very quiet, soft-spoken person. He's a good, humble guy, and he is the best player in baseball. Harper and Machado aren't even close to him.
Right.
And he's the complete opposite from them. So I see it being a completely... I can understand if the Yankees go after him because they have the capital to do so, but I don't see that being a Trout-type team.
Right. Because, you're right. Basically, it all's going to come down to what does Mike Trout value the most. If it's money, which I don't see as being for him, but if it's money, it's hard to beat the Yankees. If it's stability, I actually don't see him leaving LA, because he's been there for all these years, but damn it, LA, get that man some help so that that man deserves to make the playoffs. And I'm a Yankees fan saying this, but
Yeah. Well, hell. So when the Royals swept them in 14,
hmm
I felt so bad for Mike Trout. I was like, "Yay, my team won in 4 games." Oh, I feel bad for Mike Trout because they
right.
actually had a decent team and they could have done something. But no, they always seem like when they do make the playoffs, they always seem to run into the worst team possible for them,
hmm
and then they just get absolutely throttled. And after that, now they're just. I think they're kind of like a ship adrift at this point. Sure, they've got a captain, but the captain's dejected and without a direction. So
And,
it's sad.
and that shows you how likable Trout is too, because like you said, it's like every year you could be against him during that series if he actually makes the playoffs. You could be against him during that series that he's played against your team, but once your team beats them, it's like I actually feel bad for Mike Trout because dude is mega talented. I mean, our stats guy, well,
Yeah.
he pulls these stats, and I mean, just his WAR alone over some of the all-time greats, and then over it basically just laughs at anyone else's that's currently playing. His WAR laughs at theirs basically, and it's get him some help, LA. Just get him
Or
some help.
trade him. Trade him.
Yeah,
Get something.
get something
Get some
for
money.
him. And see,
Get some
he and
players for
our
Christ's sake.
stats guy, he also had another good theory that if LA's going to trade him, this would be the year to trade him because
Yeah, you would have a well. Let's say you trade him right before the deadline. It's what, a year and a half
year and a
left
half.
on his. That's perfect for a team that's contending and wants to contend to the following year. This is the perfect time to trade for him.
Especially like I said, if money is his motivator, and right, like I said, in 2 years everything sets up for the Yankees. But if you jump ahead of them and he decides to re-sign with you, that's I mean you know that as a Royals fan, you know how it is about damn the Yankees and how
Yeah, well, yeah.
everybody just loves to see when a team gets over on the Yankees. To me, that would be your best option is to
Oh,
trade for him this year, get up those prospects, get yourself a year and a half of Trout, re-sign him, and just put both middle fingers up to New York.
well, as a Royals fan, let's just say we have like a decent year and we want to put ourselves over the top of the trade deadline, which is very possible because our team is very hit and miss because we have some fantastic talent that's coming up, but we're not really sure how that's going to work. So let's say we go out and trade for Mike Trout. We trade for him. I can guarantee you we would sign him to a long-term deal. I could guarantee it because Kansas City's one of those places that once you come to, there's a certain understanding of how fantastic this town is and how good of a community it is and how much of a small town it feels like, but actually really how big it is. Like if Trout came here, he would feel at home and he would want to make it his home like a lot of major leaguers and a lot of professional football players do after their careers are over. I could see that happening.
And
So just watch out. If a team like the Royals or another small market team like that has a good hometown feel to it, they trade for him, guess what? He's going to be there for life.
thinking about the Royals, see, y'all have another good asset that's on your side also. You have a recent history of being able to win. I mean,
Well, yeah, and our team isn't that far off from competing yet again because we spent our first 5 picks this last year on pitching, and all of them were college pitchers. So what does that tell you? Our biggest weakness was pitching, and we addressed it to address the need in the near future. So we've essentially got our pitching squared away. Now it's a matter of our young guys coming up and producing in the majors. And we've got essentially what will be considered the next closest thing to Mike Trout in Adalberto Mondesi, who's considered the best five-tool player right now, and he's only 23 years old. He has he's the second fastest guy in the majors, and arguably the fastest guy in the majors. He's a defensive powerhouse. He's a switch hitter, and he's going to be hitting for 20-plus home runs and stealing 50-plus bases for many years to come, and it's going to start this year. So you start coupling that and then the possibility of winning and being above 500 and then adding a guy like Trout, watch out. The major leagues is going to be taken over, especially by a team like that. That's built like that.
And see, I mean, parody that like that in these professional sports leagues, that'll be something we'll talk about on another episode. But to dream of parody like that.
Oh yeah. Considering I've been like the most depressed fan my entire life, and then out of nowhere I have a franchise quarterback and possibly like a franchise baseball player on our team. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Now, if only that Jayhawk football team can do something for you.
We don't want to talk about that. I don't want to be sad today.
Oh, well, Max, it's a pleasure to have you on, buddy, and I hope you come back on real soon.
Oh, anytime. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to listening to this to see how pretty I sound.
You and me both, buddy.
All right, well, I'll talk to you later, man.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Well, that's going to be our show for today. Check us out on our Facebook page, Sports Fanatics United. Check us out on Twitter @Forever Fanatics. I'm your host, Eric Good, and until next time.